Good morning, everyone. We are so excited to be back for another webinar on model-driven app design. This is part 3 of a 3-part series. So if you missed part 1, where Clay came and showed us all about entities, or you missed part 2, where Anis came and showed us all about forms and views, then you can go back in my playlist and look for the series on model driven. Okay, and you can watch those in advance, or you can stay here and watch this and watch those later. Okay, this is recording live and you can rewind at any time as well. Okay, so this is part 3, and Casey Burke is joining us today. Casey, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the PowerApps team?
Hi, Audrey. Thanks for having me today. And so, yeah, I've been on the PowerApps team for, gosh, what has it been, about 7-8 months now, maybe? Our worlds kind of meshed together when we had the CRM or Dynamics 365 team, and then we kind of all came together with the PowerApps team as well. So before I was working on the Dynamics team, I was owning Dynamics 365 trials. And the trial experience as far as when you actually take out a trial and get into the app, sample data, things like that. And since I've moved over here, now I'm working on our sample apps across both Canvas and model driven, as well as declarative designers. So these are some of the things that you'll see refreshed coming in I guess in the next 6 to 12 months here. You'll see some new designers coming in. Across chart designer and dashboard designer, like we're going to go over today, as well as some other things that you're going to see in the PowerApps portal.
That sounds awesome, Casey. I'm excited about seeing these different designers. And basically, just to check my comprehension, when you say designers, it's like the different windows that you open to design a form or a view, or like you're going to do a chart. Okay,
yeah,
great.
Exactly.
I'm going to look forward to seeing that. Well, we're all excited about your topic today, which is charts and dashboards. And I know personally, charts has always been a challenge for me in PowerApps because for sometimes it just, I'm an Excel chart girl, but it doesn't always do exactly what I want. Even though, it's a little bit of time that you invest in it and you can get it there, but it takes a little while. So I'm looking to see what you're going to give us as far as model-driven chart design, and then how we put that together in a dashboard. I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Share screen whenever you're ready, and we can get going. I'll be watching the chat for you in the meantime.
All right. All right, are you seeing my deck?
Yep, I see it. It looks great too.
Okay. All right, so like Audrey mentioned, we are going to cover part 3 today. So I'm going to do a quick recap on what we covered in the first 2 sessions, just so no one's lost, but not go into too much detail on that. So let me pull this up here. Okay, so like I said, quick recap. I'm going to give you a few PowerPoint slides just as far as an overview on the charts and what you can do with them, and as well as the dashboards. And then at the end, we're going to bring it all together into an app, and I can show you what the finished product looks like. Okay, so just a quick recap. So the first session was with Clay, and he covered the data model and created the different entities for this scenario that we have, which involves student recruitment. So imagine a college campus that is accepting applications from students, and they run them through the admission process as far as accepting applications, scoring them, things like that. So, and then in the second session, Anis covered what it looks like to build a form out, and as well as creating different views as far as visualizing the different records in a grid view to see all the different applications, things like that come into the system. Okay, so the data model is really important when you're thinking about reporting. And so, oops, I skipped ahead there. So I just wanted to bring this up again. So we have 3 custom entities here. One is programs, the other one is campus for the actual college campus, and then the other one is application. So that's the actual application that a student would submit for admission. And then the other one is a contact. So this is already part of the Common Data Service, and we just repurposed it so that it's actually referencing the student, and we named it as candidate. So I guess not a student yet, but a candidate, and we just renamed that entity. Okay, so a quick overview of the charts. They do offer drill down capabilities, which is actually pretty cool. This is a little bit more robust in the web client. If you remember from the previous sessions, we support two different types of apps right now. The original one that's been around for a while is the web client. The user interface is not quite as modern, but there is some more capabilities there as far as drill down. We do have a lot of out-of-the-box charts, and so if you look at account, contact, there's already some pre-created charts that you can use, and you can modify them as well. And then we have interactive charts, which allow you to sort and filter, and it's a little bit different than drill down as far as the web interface is concerned, but it offers you some pretty cool capabilities, and we'll get into that on the dashboard side as well when we kind of put this all together. And then you'll see out of the box, we do offer, I think it's 6 different chart types out of the box. But this is also fully extensible. And so if you were to export the chart XML, you can make some tweaks to it, and you can get up to 35 different chart types, as well as modify a lot of properties that you aren't going to see in the product UI as far as a designer perspective.
Casey, can I ask you a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
Can you go back one slide? You have the term unified interface only. Can you briefly explain what does unified interface mean?
So this is our new model, I guess you could say, for across Dynamics 365 and the Common Data Service. So when you create an app, you have 2 options. You can do web client, which has been around for a while, and then you can also create it for the unified client. Now this is, the UI looks a lot differently, it has some different capabilities, and it's also fully responsive. And so you build something once, and you don't have to build it again for, say, your phone or your tablet. It actually is just responsive across all devices. So that's one of the main things that we get from that.
So it's responsive automatically on everything?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Thank you, Casey.
Okay, so I broke it down by 2 different chart types. And there's, as far as the visualization is concerned, there's actually more chart types, but just kind of a way to conceptualize it is you can have a single series chart. And so this is basically just one value for the x-axis, one value for the y-axis. Or you can have multi-series charts. And there's a couple subcategories within this. And so this can be, you have 2 or 3 different values on the x-axis and the same for the y-axis. You have a stack column chart. And so this is comparing 2 different things on a single series. And then you can also do a 100% stack column chart, and that shows you the percentage as a whole and how each series contributes to it. Okay. So one example of that would be, so let me say that again. So you can also combine different chart types as well. And so if you have a multi-series chart and you want to have a column chart and a line bar, or a column and a line with the bar and the line on the same chart, you can also do that. And we'll get into some examples here in a minute.
Is this very different from charting in Excel, or is it similar?
It has some similarities for sure. One thing about CDS is the data model is very structured and it's very relational. And so comparing that to a data set that is maybe more unstructured, I would say this is actually much easier to visualize and conceptualize and actually put it into practice. You can see when you have relationships between your different entities, that's just an automatic option that you get, and it's very easy to visualize and play with that data.
Okay, Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, and then moving on to dashboards. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention that applies across charts and dashboards. So these can be created at the user level, meaning, Audrey, if you're a user of the system and maybe you're not an administrator of the system, you could create a personal chart. And so this is just something that would help you with your day-to-day. You could even share that with a couple other people maybe on your team.
Pretty awesome. So it's like my chart that only I see.
Exactly.
Oh, cool.
And you can do that with dashboards as well. And then there's a system chart. So this would be more of an administrator function where it applies to, so everyone gets this. So you create a system dashboard, system chart, and everyone in the organization that has the appropriate security role will be able to do that.
Now, do I have to be an admin to make a system chart, or can I be anybody?
You don't necessarily have to be an admin. You have to have the appropriate permission though. And
Okay.
so two out of the box roles have it. It's a system customizer and the system administrator. And then you could also create a custom security role that allows you to have that permission.
Perfect. Thank you.
So like I said, there's user level and then there's system level. And then for dashboard, we have classic, which has been around for a little while. So this is not bound to any specific entity. You can post a lot of different things on your dashboard across entities. You can put grids in there and charts across pretty much anything. You can do web resources on that. You can do a timeline control. And then there's interactive, which is a little bit newer concept. And this is specific to an entity, but you can also show related entities within it. And how this behaves, and I'll show you an example in a minute, but how this behaves is that you can apply global filters across the entire dashboard, and everything on that dashboard filters down. So it has a little bit more of a Power BI feel to it, but everything is tied together on that dashboard in a relational way. And so, for example, if I have a chart on the dashboard and I drill into something to apply a filter, it impacts the entire dashboard, whereas classic dashboards don't behave that way.
Very interesting. Can't wait to see it. This is exciting.
Yeah. Here's some additional resources that will enhance your understanding. What's interesting about charts is there's not a whole lot of meat as far as the documentation goes. If you go into the customization guide, it's actually found under the developer guide, and then you have some really rich content in there. And if you're not a developer, I wouldn't let that scare you, because a lot of it, you don't have to have any development knowledge. It's essentially defining the different chart types, and it goes as far as extending it as far as just modifying a couple XML properties. So yeah, nothing too scary.
No, this sounds very reachable. I was just telling Casey before the webinar that, those of us that have been customizing on SharePoint for years, we playing with XML in all kinds of ways. So that kind of familiar territory for the person who has, been with SharePoint for many years. So it just may be a different spin on it. And I'm glad that you gave us a link to this toolbox. Now the toolbox, is it produced by Microsoft? Is that a Microsoft utility, or is it a third-party utility?
It's third party. It's actually made by some of our MVPs.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of different tools within it. They've found things that our designers out of the box maybe just don't do, or it's not quite as easy. And they've filled some of those gaps with this toolbox. And so there's a lot of different things in there that are actually pretty cool. For example, Anis last week, he covered views. And sometimes in your organization, you want to create a very similar view, but have a whole bunch of them. An example would be if you're managing leads for a sales organization, and you want to replicate the same view with all the same columns for people in different countries, but you just want to change the actual country filter. With the XRM toolbox, they have a view replicator tool that allows you to just copy these views time and time again. So that's pretty cool, because if you do it through our tooling, you would have to actually go in and individually create the view, and it's just a little bit more time consuming. So a lot of different things in there. I think there's probably like 15, 20 different tools.
Wow.
But yeah, it has an advanced chart editor in there, which essentially what it does is, so I mentioned you can export the chart and set custom properties on it. in the XML. The XRM toolbox with the advanced chart editor gives you a more WYSIWYG experience for doing that, where you just configure the properties. It kind of breaks it out nicely for you and has some drop-down options to set those properties. That doesn't require any XML knowledge.
That sounds awesome, and right down my ballpark, so I will give it a try. Is it free, or does it have a cost?
It's free.
Oh, awesome, even better. All right, great. Casey, thank you. I'll get these links in the descriptions, everyone, so that you can also click it from below the video.
Okay. All right, so I have my demo environment set up here. This is the same one that Clay and Anise used as well. So we're just continuing forward with that storyline. So right here, I'm on canvas mode by default. When I go to web.powerapps.com, I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to model driven. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start out by creating a few charts. There's a couple different ways that you can get to the chart editor where you can actually create them. First option is if you come into here, say data, and then entities. So let's pick application. Then you can see across the top here, we have this enabled. So charts are entity specific. You can click here, and I don't have any charts yet for this custom entity, so we can go ahead and create one. There's a couple other ways to get there. One of them is through, if you already have an app created, you can edit the app, and then you'll see an option there. And then another option is if I open this advanced tab here, which we call it advanced, but it's really not that scary. So it just gives you a few more options here. And then when this loads, you'll see a list of entities, and then underneath the entities, you can select charts. So an example here, application, and then I have my charts right here. So a few different access points from the portal. I'm just going to create it right through here. So as we step through this, you'll see I'm going to create several charts, and then we're actually going to apply these to the dashboard. And then we'll bring it all together in the end. So the first one, I'm going to do a funnel chart. And let's do application. So you can see here, so this is my y-axis at the top here, and this is my x-axis. So you can see you can add multiple different, you call it either a series or a category depending on the axis, and you can add multiple. So we'll start with a simple one. Say we want to see a funnel of the applications that are coming in. And so we're going to do a count of these applications. And we're going to do that and look at the application status. So you can see here it renders a preview of the chart. And so I have these, I think there's like 4 different values for application status: approved, in review, submitted, and so on. And so it renders that funnel chart for you.
Now, Casey, this is amazing. I'm watching you 3 clicks and you've got a funnel chart. But here's my question. Does it have available on that screen all of your entities, or only the entities for the app that you are in? Like, is this based on the entity and not on the app, or what is it?
It's based on the entity. And so
yeah.
Let me just go ahead and show that again over here. So first I clicked on entities.
Yep. And then applications, right?
Yeah, and so you could do it for any entity in your system. Well,
and then
most entities in the system.
For that entity, no matter what app I use it in.
Yep, correct.
Wow.
So it becomes part of the system, and you can utilize it in any app you want.
See, this is the thing that I love most about CDS for Apps, Casey, is that we're driving our business rules, we're driving our views and our charts and all these different things directly from the data, which means that we can use it over and over and over again. No matter how many apps we build, we can maintain that structure. I mean, this is like my favorite piece. Excuse me for interrupting, but I'm always excited when I see this, because we don't actually think this way on a Canvas side, right?
Right.
We build
very fundamentally different.
Yeah, but this is exciting. Sorry to interrupt you. Keep going.
No problem. And that's something that's, really important to understand as well. So I'm creating these things in a database. And really, when you create an app, it's just a presentation layer on top of your data in your database. And so when I create things like entities, fields, relationships, charts, dashboards, that applies to the entire database, and you can reference it within any application that is connected to that database.
That is just off the hook. Thank you, Casey.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this one. Go back over here to charts. Add another one. This one, let's do a stacked bar chart. And you can see too, when I select the fields, it actually names the chart for you. You can always change this if you want, but kind of a cool feature. It tells you exactly what data you're aggregating, and it names the chart accordingly. So this one, once again, let's do the application. So this is a count of all the applications. And let's do this. So because it's a stacked bar chart, I'm going to add 2 values for category. So let's go ahead and do campus, and we'll do application status. So I have 4 different campuses here, and then it's actually aggregating this data, breaking it down by how many applications we have for a specific campus, as well as the status of those applications. Let's go ahead and save and close. Oh, one thing I want to call out really quick. So you can see we have all the chart types listed at the top, and see some of them will get grayed out here. You can't click them. That's because certain types are supported for multi-series like this, whereas, for example, a pie chart or a funnel chart, it just supports a single series chart. So you can have one value on the x-axis, one value on the y.
Can I ask you?
So you see how these get enabled again if I delete that?
Yeah, I get you. It only applies when it's contextually possible. Is there a way you can zoom the chart itself? We're seeing it small, even though I know it's a beautiful chart.
Yeah, it's it's kind of funny. So we made this go full screen now. If you go through the advanced tab, it actually just opens, and it's in like a smaller pop-up window.
Okay.
And so yeah, it is a little bit hard to see on this.
You'll probably show us in the app. You'll show us in the app after, and it'll be okay.
Yeah. So this is just a preview, and so this is what it'll actually look like. I mentioned there's 2 different types of apps: the web client and the unified interface.
Yes.
It'll actually look a little bit different in the unified interface. It's a little bit more of a modern look and feel.
And this is the web client right here. This is the
exactly. So this is a preview for the web client. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So let me go here, and I'll just refresh this. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. So I mentioned there's 2 different ways, or a few different ways to access the charts. What I did now is I just opened the advanced tab, expand the entities again, application, we'll look at the charts. So you can see there's the 2 that I just created. Let's see if you can view this one a little bit better, if it appears a little bigger on the screen.
So when you use the advanced, you get a pop-up window kind of dedicated to the chart?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. I gotcha. That makes sense. I'll probably be in there because I can't see worth a damn. So this is it's a good one for me.
All right. Okay, so let's try out a line chart now. And for this one, once again, we're counting the applications. And then for this one, let's look at it over a time frame. So let's look at the submission date. And then you can see here when it's a date and time field, I get another option here for the time frame that you want to look at it. And so this one, let's start with a weekly period. So now I can see how many applications are coming in by week. Okay. Something else I could do with this, so I mentioned you can combine two different chart types. And so if I wanted to, I could also add in another series here. And then you see here how you can select the different chart type on the series. And so let's see if I have an example. So
like if you wanted to add a bar, you could add another one. And
exactly, yep. And so say I want to look at, see campus, that one work? Yeah, it's a little bit of a cluttered view, but I think you kind of get the idea. You know, you can play with this with different field values and different chart types and see how it overlays one on top of the other.
Definitely useful. Is it possible to combine other entities to this chart, or is it restricted to that entity?
You can show related entities. So you'd be able to pull fields in from related entities. And so if you look here, these are related entities. So campus, that's a lookup field. Candidate, that's a lookup field to the contact entity. And so you can aggregate it, but it has to be in relation to this entity because I'm creating a chart at the entity level.
Okay, so if you wanted to create those kind of relationships in your charts, you'd first create the relationships in the entities.
Exactly.
It would be available from these drop downs.
And that's why in a model-driven world, it's super important to think about your data model before you get into these types of things, because of the relationships that I have set up with these other entities, I'm able to create charts that you can visualize the data across entities and show the relationships between those two entities. If it were a different relationship type, it would be more difficult or sometimes even impossible to get the visualization that you're looking for. And so it is really important to consider those things, at the start of your app development.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll keep this one simple. Do a save and close on this. Let's go ahead and create one more.
Just to let you know, we got some thumbs up in the chat. David Van Herden says this is very nice and he likes it. It's tightly integrated. Me too. I just think this is impressive.
All right. Okay, so let's do 100% stacked bar on this one. If you remember a little bit ago, I mentioned, so there's a stacked bar where you're showing it basically in relation to each other at the category level, and the bar, however long it extends, represents that value, whereas 100% stacked, the bars are all going to be the same length, but it shows it as a percentage, and so a percentage of the total for your horizontal axis here. So once again, let's do application.
Anything you can do to make it bigger is helpful, but it's good if that's the maximum you can.
Yeah, it doesn't really help, does it?
Okay, no problem.
You can zoom. Does that help? I don't know if it got any bigger.
That's okay. It's okay.
Sorry, Audrey.
Right.
All right. So now let's do semester. And we'll do application status. So this is what I was talking about here. And so you can see that all the bars are the same length and it's showing it as a percentage. And so I'm looking at the semester here and the application status that you can see represented by the different colors of the charts, or the bars, I mean. And so one of the things is you can see here it's a little bit limited. I can't edit the colors, for example, of the different bars. I can't really define what the labels are. So that's when you get into that a little bit of an extension scenario where you would export the chart and you can modify those properties directly in the XML. And we do have it on our roadmap to bring some of those abilities into the designer. But for now, it's simple export, modify the property, and then import it back into the system. Or you can use the XRM toolbox, like I mentioned.
And I actually do think, in this scenario where we're adding to our model-driven app, that the amount of customization being reduced and just simplifying that standard look and feel is actually in most cases quite practical. We just get our charts into our dashboards quickly and deliver our solutions faster. So I like it. And I think your chart looks great.
All right. Let's see, is it this one? Yeah, so I can give you an example of that here. So you can just say export chart. I'm going to open up the chart XML here, Visual Studio, or you can use the XML editor of your choice. And we want to come down, we want to look for the series. Let me see here. Open that one. There we go. Okay, so you can see here, these are the visualization properties within the chart. So you can see it's a stack bar chart and then different font pixels. So these are the label colors, for example. You can customize all these properties. And then, like I said, this is all using the ASP.NET or Microsoft Chart Control properties. And so I give some links as well, and it defines all the different properties that you can set. So for this one, let's just go ahead and set a couple. So let's do is value shown as label equal to true. Just got an extra quotation.
You're putting the numbers on the chart?
Well, what I'm doing right now is just, so if I go back to the preview.
I think you have one single quote and one double quote. I'm struggling to see that text. I think that text you can make larger if you go to the text menu, but
yeah, you can. Yeah. So you can see here if I hover over it, it shows me the count of the applications in the summer, but really this chart is rendering as a percentage, and it's not showing me the percentage labels. And so that's what I'm doing in the XML right now, is adding the percentage labels.
Okay.
Okay, so make sure I got my quotations correct there. That looks good.
One of your quotes look to be single and one looks double. I don't know if that's right.
I think you need to get your vision checked, Audrey.
I do. It's way too small.
Make me second guess myself. Okay, let's do label format equals. Now let's do the pound sign. So that's going to render it as a percentage. I got another quotation there.
So that's like a custom
format
right there.
Yeah, so you can also do hashtag percentage. What I've noticed on these, so if you just did like hashtag and then capital percentage, what I've noticed though, and it's specific to the 100% stacked bar, is that when it aggregates the percentage, let me go back to this, it's actually doing it across, did I close it? I closed it. So that's a simpler way. You could just say percentage, but what it would actually do is aggregate percentage across the status on this chart. And so what I'm doing with this formula is I'm saying I don't want it to aggregate across the status. I want it to aggregate on a single line. And so when I hover over this, that applications for this semester, what percentage of it is it in relation to the semester?
Gotcha.
Not in relation to the actual status of the application.
Okay.
So that's why it's a little bit more of a goofy formula.
Yeah.
And like I said, all these are referenced in the documentation, so it's not just something you have to memorize or anything like that. There's a lot of really good samples and examples of these as well. I just wanted to kind of, give you something that's a little bit more of a simple example and just show you the process of exporting it, modifying the XML, and then importing it back in.
Okay, thank you. Look pretty easy.
So let's see. And so if we go back here, I can just say import the chart. And notice you do have to be in the Advanced tab to import the chart. We don't have that enabled on the PowerApps portal yet. So
you advance from the bottom of the entities, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
And just make sure I save that. Yep. And then you'll see here, so that chart was already in my system, and now I've modified the properties of it. And so it asked me, do I want to replace it, or do I want to keep both versions and just rename the modified version? So just to show you what the difference is, I'm going to create a new one for this modified version. We can just call it modified. I'll go ahead and import that in. Now I've noticed a couple kind of, differences between how it renders in a web client app versus unified client. And so I'm going to show you on the web client here, just because I couldn't get this working on the unified client. And I'm going to follow up with that team just to see if, maybe some of these custom properties wouldn't be supported on the unified client yet, being that it's, brand new and we haven't ported all the features from the web client to the unified client yet. Let's go here. So this is the old web client. I have active applications, and then there's a chart pane here that I can expand.
Wow, that looks much better now that it's bigger.
I can see.
I can see. Oh, that looks great.
So this is the first one that we created where it's not aggregating as a percentage.
Yeah. I can see it says 9 instead of percent something.
And you can see here now the percentage labels are shown on the chart.
Wow. And just FYI, Casey, that was very similar to what, and I'm sorry to keep reminding you of this, but SharePoint, you export a web part, you edit the XML in the web part, you import it back, and same kind of thing. So doesn't look hard at all. And you did that in just, a minute, really, even with talking. And
yeah, it's really pretty simple. Don't let the advanced tab scare you or the fact that you're modifying XML, because really it's just tweaking a couple properties here and there.
Perfect. This looks good. Are there any heads up we should be careful of though when we do that? Is there any can you give us any warnings or lessons learned?
It is case sensitive, so be careful, watch your typos, and look at the documentation, reference it, and just make sure you're using it exactly as shown. Otherwise, you'll probably end up with an error on your chart. Other than that, just kind of take some playing with it. You'll find a few things here and there, but as long as it's supported, a documented way of doing it, then we should be fine.
This is awesome. I'm going to try it today.
All right.
Maybe not today, maybe Thursday, because I'm still out.
Yeah.
So
Audrey's working on her day off. I feel bad.
No, don't feel bad. I loved it. And I'm learning something cool. So will you show us next how to get it into a dashboard?
Yep.
Great.
So let's go ahead and move over here. Okay, so once again, similar with charts, how you can access it right here from within the portal. You can do that with dashboards, or you can go through Solution Explorer here. I'm going to go through Solution Explorer. So let's go ahead and create a new dashboard. So there's actually two different types of dashboards. Like I mentioned before, interactive and a classic dashboard, whereas the interactive ones are all tied to a specific entity, Because I'm within the entities node, that's the only option. But if I go down here to dashboards, and then say new dashboard, you can see I have the interactive experience, or this one, which is a classic dashboard, because that's at a global level. And a classic dashboard is not specific to an entity. You can display anything from your system, as well as external sources. So like you could do an iframe on that type of dashboard, or a web resource that might be running some custom code that generates a visual.
So I could like have on my dashboard maybe an iframe to another type of dashboard, maybe my Kibana dashboard or my Power BI dashboard or some other thing.
Yeah, there's actually, so I mentioned two, I guess, kind of subtypes, if you want to call it that way. So you have global dashboards, and then you have a user level dashboard. A user level dashboard, you can actually embed a Power BI dashboard. We just don't support it as a system dashboard. But if you had a great,
I have to have you come back and do that, okay? Yeah. That's one that we were interested in seeing. So you can come back.
It's really simple. It's really simple. It's supported out of the box. It's just a system setting that you have to say, allow Power BI dashboards to be embedded. And then we have a control already built into the system. And it's very simple. You just say new dashboard and select your Power BI dashboard. So the integration's already been built out for you, and it's very, very simple.
Cool, super cool. Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. So let's create a new interactive experience dashboard. We select the layout here, and this one is set on multi-stream. Let's see, typically we get a tab here for either single stream or multi-stream. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so let's do a single stream dashboard. And select this one.
And those are like previews of the widgets, like where they're placed on the screen?
Yeah, so these are different layout options for your dashboard.
That's great.
So single stream, a stream is a view, essentially, or a query. And so you can have multiple different views. So for this one, say if I wanted to do, this is actually a single stream dashboard, but say I wanted to do a multi-stream, I could have different views set up. So I could say, active applications, applications in review, different things like that across different streams. And then the charts are the visuals, and this, if you drill into or filter something on the chart, then it filters all the streams on your dashboard now. And so you'll see that in a minute here when let me give this a name. Management dashboard. Let's set this to application. And let's do this quarter. So this is the time frame, and then you specify the field. And so submission date is when the application was actually submitted. So this is just specifying the time frame for all the things. It's essentially like a default filter for your dashboard. Cool. And then you'll see once it gets created, you can actually change the time frame as well if you want to look at it for different periods.
So the person who's making this dashboard makes those decisions on what the filter entity is and what the filter options are. But the person looking at the dashboard relies on what was already configured. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So okay. if it's a system level dashboard like I'm creating right now. Okay, so you select the view for the stream. Let's do active applications. And then we'll go ahead and add these charts in that I created. This one.
So you made the charts, so you're just basically deciding where they're going to show up on the dashboard.
Exactly.
But how they can be filtered by the user looking at the screens in the dashboard.
Yeah.
Perfect. Gotcha. I'm understanding. Looks easy so far.
So like I said, there's different dashboard types. And so this one is a little bit more simplistic as far as I can only add charts in now. And it's a predefined container as far as the dashboard layout, whereas a classic dashboard, I actually have additional options to resize these things and add different component types that aren't just charts and streams. Let's add our last one in here, and then we'll go ahead and see what it looks like when you play it. That line chart. So the preview it's still rendering is for the web client, and you'll notice it actually looks really the same in the web client, but much different in the unified client. Okay,
did you use the chart with the percentages? You did?
No, I didn't add that one in here.
Okay.
So this is just, this is the first one that we created.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and save this. And close. So with dashboards and charts, these get saved in your system, and you can still go preview them in a live experience before they're published to everyone in the organization. So I can still see all these. I'm actually just going to go ahead and publish these though, just so we make them available for the entire organization. Okay, so let's go back, and I'm just going to publish this entire entity. All right, so now that we've created these components, we want to put that into an app so that we can actually go visualize it. So similarly, with the charts and the dashboards, you can access the apps directly here through the Advanced tab in Solution Explorer, or back on your portal, you can click Apps. And you can either create a new app or edit an existing one. This is the one that Anais was working on, so let's just go ahead and edit this one. I'm going to go ahead and rename it because we're not just looking at forms and views anymore. So let's call this, I'll call it student recruitment.
Because technically we finished this app after this one, you know, unless we want to extend it further. But I think we've basically built it from start to finish.
Yeah, exactly. So we already have all these, so this was left over from Anais, basically the application. We have the form that he built, the views, and we have these entities that Clay had created. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to add the dashboard to my sitemap, so to my application. So I'm going to come up here and say, let me select this first. The add button is contextual to what you have selected on the screen. And then for here, we're going to say dashboard. And this was the application management dashboard. Go ahead and save this. And then we'll publish it. Okay, so let's come back here to the portal. And now we'll go ahead and play this app.
I should have gotten a drum roll for this one. I forgot. Just imagine it, drum roll.
Do you have sound effects on your side?
I don't. I
should get awesome. Let's say you're holding out on me.
Next time. I'm growing.
Okay, so I get this kind of default icon for the dashboards here. And now you can see how it actually does look quite a bit different in the unified client than the preview experience that we had before. But so I can hover over these, and it gives me the count of the applications as well as the status. Same thing, and this is all interactive. And so, for example, if I want to look at applications for the Northeast campus that are a status of submitted, I can go ahead and filter this and see it actually filters my stream down. to just those two applications. It filters everything on the dashboard. So everything is all tied together. So that's your filtering. And I'll talk to this in a second because this isn't very descriptive for the card that we have on the stream. Yeah. There's a different way. So this actually is in the forms topic. It's called a card form, and you specify the properties that you want to see on this card. So another cool thing here is the global filter. And so this allows me to say I want to see all the applications that are in review. Go ahead and apply that filter. Once again, it applies to everything on the entire dashboard. And then my stream is filtered down so I can quickly jump to these applications. One thing about this so I actually did this, Anis didn't do this when he was creating the fields. So when you create a field, there's a property on there that says, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's something about, allow the use of this field sorting and filtering in the interactive dashboard. And so you have to make sure those are selected, and that allows it to display here as a filter. So say I want to look this up by program. Loads all my programs. Let's look at this for accounting. By that filter. You can add multiple filters as well, and everything on the dashboard filters down again. So if you wanted to see that really quickly, let's just do, yeah, we're almost to time, so I'll just show you that really quickly here.
Thank you, Casey. I do have a couple of questions I jotted down, but no rush.
Okay. So for example, these are the fields on this entity. If I open that up from the Advanced tab here, you can see these two options. So it appears as a global filter in the interactive experience and sortable in the interactive experience. And so I just went ahead and checked these for all the custom fields that we have on this entity to make sure that we got that global filter list. Okay, and then Audrey, go ahead and shoot away. You had a couple questions.
So earlier when we started, I just want to make sure I got my facts right. You had mentioned there are 6 chart types basically out of the box with the capability of extending the XML to like 35 chart types, correct? Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that we could embed Power BI. Can we create one of those screens on that dashboard? Could that be a Power BI tile?
So there is a way of doing it. Let me say this again. So the out-of-the-box experience that we provide is for an entire full screen dashboard that you could embed. So like we could have a dashboard view that would take up the whole screen, and it's essentially just Power BI embedded with a couple additional features. If you want to do it at like a Power BI chart on a classic dashboard in the system, you would have to get an embed link from Power BI and then put that as a component. You would do it as, you could do like an iframe or a web resource for that.
And at that point, the Power BI would not be aware of the interactivity, correct?
That's correct. It would just be read-only, essentially.
Now, you had mentioned the different dashboards, classic and interactive. Mm-hmm. This one seemed quite interactive to me, even though you used classic.
No, this was an interactive dashboard.
Oh, okay,
let me show you the difference really quick here. So these sample apps that I'd created. So the fundraiser one uses an interactive dashboard, just like we had, and I believe it's Innovation Challenge. This is a classic dashboard, just so you can kind of visualize the difference.
Sure, perfect.
Give this a second to load here. So this, I can display data across multiple different entities. I can have grid controls in the dashboard that has a different look and feel than the stream that you saw. I can do web resources, iframes. I don't have any sample data for this. This is a timeline control. And so, for example, if I want to post something, if you have, it's not good. If you have Yammer enabled, for example, you can do that in Dynamics 365, or you could have a Yammer feed on your dashboard. A lot of different things you can do with it. The options are kind of more broad. The interactive dashboard is...
I can have a Yammer feed right there so that while I'm looking at my dashboard, if I want to type something, it will go to that Yammer group about this innovation challenge, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that sounds like a great opportunity to incorporate, collaboration along with, visualization.
Yeah, definitely. A common example is if you're using Dynamics 365 for sales, you're working on an opportunity with a customer and you want to get some feedback, hey, has someone else sold a similar product, or does someone else have a relationship with this customer? Whatever they might want to ask on Yammer, they can post that. And because of the relational model, that Yammer post is deep linked to that opportunity and will become a part of the record for that opportunity.
So, when you're building an app, right? And I know we did this kind of in the order of, we started with an entity, we went to forms and views, and then we did our charts, and then we did our dashboard. Is that the recommended approach, or does it matter in what order you kind of put these components together?
It doesn't necessarily matter. A lot of times you start building a dashboard and then you realize, oh, you know what, I actually want a different chart type, or, I actually want to see this in relation to this. And so I would go back at that point and create a new chart. So there's that back and forth sometimes, but from the dashboard jump point, you can't create a new chart directly from there. So I would typically start with the chart and then move into the dashboard.
And I noticed that the colors of the charts changed when you were planning it versus when you put it in the dashboard. Which one would it look like on the mobile device if I was using the mobile application and looking at this chart?
It would look like this.
It would look like that.
Yeah.
Is that because it's staying in that blue? Is that kind of like the responsive design rotates around these blue colors or blue shades?
It's unified client versus the web client.
Okay.
And in your mobile device, you're going to be running the unified client because, like I said, the design is responsive. And so you build it once and you get the same application that you can run on your mobile device.
Okay, so basically what I would do, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is I would kind of design my charts and then I would play them in the app to check their look and feel. I might even use the accessibility checker to make sure these are varied enough in color to make sure they're accessible. Okay, great.
These are also properties you can set in the XML, so you can change these colors as well. And there's some things I didn't cover, but like an option set, for example, you can tie a color to a specific value in that option set, and that can also show up on a chart.
Okay, perfect. So we only have a couple of minutes left. Maybe you could stop sharing screen and we'll go back into our closing comments. I don't see any more questions. Interior Woodworking was here today. And Interior Woodworking pointed out that he had some questions about CDS in general. Interior Woodworking, since we have a minute, if you'd love to post that question now, you can. Otherwise, I've directed him to the CDS for Apps forum. For everybody on the call, we now have a dedicated forum on the community for CDS for Apps. And remember that CDS for Apps is the platform or the database that you work from, both for Canvas and model driven. So you can leverage the database for both. So feel free to ask your questions on that dedicated forum. We have engineers on the PowerApps team actually monitoring that forum, and they'll be looking to answer your questions as quickly as possible. Also recognize that, as Casey brought out today, this is something that we are investing into, and so you will see changes over time that will enable features that you haven't been able to see yet. But over the next, I'd say 18 months or so, you're going to see progressive enhancements in the user experience here, because we're really excited about offering you this level of depth in your design of your apps. Casey, any closing comments or best practices around charts you want to share before we close up today?
I think that's all for now. If you have any questions, feel free to connect on Twitter or just respond in the comments on the video, and I'm happy to get back to you. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
No problem. And I will send you the questions that I have in the last minute, which we probably don't have time to answer, but to follow up with interior woodworking specialists. Thank you all for coming today. Casey, thank you so much for your time. I learned so much from you today, as I do every day. I'm fortunate to sit next to Casey, so I can pick his brain as often as I'd like, which is lucky. But you guys have to let us know what you'd like him to share, because we're going to have him come back again and talk to us more about some of these tools and utilities that he's taught us about today, and more about charting in the future. So I'm wishing you all a great week, and I really hope you enjoy your PowerApps experience, whether you're doing Canvas or Model, whether you're building charts or diagrams, whatever you're doing in PowerApps. I hope it's a great experience, and we'll be talking to you soon. Have a great week. Bye-bye.